Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. I apologize for my voice right now. I know it sounds like crap, and I did debate whether or not to wait until I was over this cold to film, but then I remembered that, holidays are coming up, and I have a ton of indie review books I want to get to this month. So we're just gonna have to suffer through this together. Today, I am reviewing Starcrossed by Katie Jane Gallagher. This is the sequel to Unearthly, a sci-fi Beauty and the Beast retelling, and obviously I am going to be talking about spoilers from that book, so if you're interested in a sci-fi Beauty and the Beast retelling, I will have the link down in the description below for you to check that out. Now this one begins literally moments after the last one ends, when we have learned that Del's sisters are coming to check up on him, and it's a big deal because technically he and Corinne aren't supposed to be a thing, but they're totally becoming a thing because they were kissing and all that stuff, but also Corinne is really caught up on whether or not she should be a thing with him because she wants to go home, and she was literally in the process of making a bomb to go home. And so there's a lot kind of riding on this, and I was really intrigued. One, in how his sisters looked, because I wanted to know if his really tall furriness was just how this alien species is, or if it was a curse a la Beauty and the Beast. And we discovered that yes, they just look like that. He is not under any specific curse. And you do actually get a little bit more background info on why he is basically taking a vacay on Earth in the first place. And it is very emotional. I really enjoyed that it had the same kind of vibes as Beauty and the Beast, but was not a direct, well, this thing happened in the original, so this thing must happen here type. Although I half expected the book to kind of drop the Beauty and the Beast aspects, because in a lot of cases, sequels of the books in a fairy tale retelling will drop it, just because after a certain point you want to go on with the original story rather than having to be stuck to someone else's plot lines. But there were some moments that were from the original, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. As for the sisters themselves, I believe their names are pronounced Jexra and Mirvit. Again, sci-fi alien names, it's all up to interpretation. But Jexra struck me as a very stereotypical mean girl in all of her actions, very nice to your face but plotting type of thing. And the narrative, i.e. specifically Corinne mentioning it, tries to tell you, oh, she's doing all these things because she loves Del and is protective of him, but you never hear that from Jexra really, or see that in her actions. You never see her interacting affectionately and positively with Del specifically to show you that it is out of care rather than just being mean to Corinne. And the other sister, Mirvit, is there in drone form. I believe the idea is that she is disabled, has a chronic illness that leaves her bedridden, and so uses droids, drones, whatever we're calling them, to basically move throughout the world instead. And she is much more positive in influence than her sister, but there's also some suspicion of what's she there for, is this good cop, bad cop, and that kind of thing. And the one thing I really noticed about this book is there's a lot less hard world building in it. I made the comment in the first video that it felt like a lot of world building was being dropped right onto the page without much use, especially all of the plants in the hothouse and their functions and descriptions, when in reality the hothouse as a plot point was really just Corinne's hiding place from the AI so she could plot things. And I was hoping that more things would come back in this one, but nothing really did. The first book sets up that there is this plant that is kind of a paralytic to humans. If you brush up against it, it can kind of leave your muscles paralyzed temporarily or whatever. I'm oh, okay, this is going to be a thing, but it never comes up. So it's okay, we introduced this in the first book, and a whole other book later, still nothing. And a lot of the first book was also focused on roommate protocols and all of that. But honestly, this book had much less world building when in reality, you could have easily taken a lot of the world building that was put in the first book and saved it for this one, because Jexra, as a proper princess, is very formalized and is very focused on the proper way to do things. So I think it probably would have been more powerful if you had emphasized all of the different formal ways of doing things that Corinne didn't know, to emphasize how much more Jexra knew than her, or how much Dell had not told Corinne, because it becomes apparent early on that he has not exactly taught her all of the proper ways of doing things. So it really felt like we should have stretched out the world building across books. And in general, I prefer my world building that way, where introduce me to the things as I need to know them, rather than expecting me to remember everything from a paragraph of exposition early on. Because while yes, I read these books fairly close together within the same month, a lot of people won't. A lot of people will take weeks, if not months, between books in a series that they read. So you kind of need to give the information that they need to know for that plot within that book, or reiterate it as needed. In general, the plot was very intriguing in that you weren't quite sure of the sisters and their exact intentions, if they were just being protective or if there was something else. There's also a major reveal at the end that recontextualizes the relationship and Dell's actions, especially his actions from the first book, some things that he did directly after she was brought aboard and could not leave, that recontextualize that aspect of it. And also, this book had a couple other chapters from a different point of view. The thing is that those points of view were all from townspeople, kind of explaining the excuse that her dad had made up to explain away her absence. But really, I wanted a Dell POV chapter. Like, in general, I prefer my romances to have POVs of both of the people falling in love, or technically all of the people if you're talking poly, but for this one, both, because that really emphasizes the romance from both sides. But it was interesting to see other points of view, and without getting too much into things, the ending got surprisingly tense. The climactic scene, which I mentioned before, did kind of pay homage in one specific way to Beauty and the Beast, and I'm not telling you what specific way, but it is a major plot point from the original, and it got almost like scary at one point and very creepy, and I really enjoyed that. And I thought that certain things from the first book paid off really well. Certain things that were set off, kind of a Chekhov's gun situation from the first book that I really liked. But also, that does reiterate to me that I believe moving forward, there is at least one other book past this one. I don't know how long this series is going to be, but I know Ascendant or Ascending or something like that, the title of the third book will be coming out at some point. And I don't think it will really have much to do with the original Beauty and the Beast. Now, it might be pulling from other fairy tales. It might be pulling from, I don't know, other aspects of Beauty and the Beast in different ways. But for the most part, I think we are moving into pure sci-fi romance that's not a direct fairy tale retelling from this point on, which I also like. Because I mentioned before in the first review that Beauty and the Beast retellings is one of the most overdone form of retelling, and I get very tired of it. I want other forms of retellings. Someone remake Rumpelstiltskin. That's the that's the high tier one. Regardless, I did really enjoy this book. I do still think that the world building could use some reworking in the series to stretch it out and make it more as it is needed, rather than giant blocks of text that you're not going to remember all of moving forward. But I also really enjoyed that this book both wrapped up certain things, definitely moved the characters forward, but also left a lot up in the air Despite the fact that I brought up before that it did have some major plot points from Beauty and the Beast and will likely not be using Beauty and the Beast as the framework moving forward, there is still a lot up in the air that needs to be resolved, conflicts that need to be worked through. So it does make sense that it is continuing as a series. This is not a let's forcibly continue a series that is clearly over situation, which I really enjoy. And in general, I would highly suggest this book. If you liked the first, this is more what you liked before. I gave it 4 stars. We'll definitely be continuing with the series, hopefully, if Miss Gallagher wants to send me the next one. But I'm just happy in general that we're getting more sci-fi romance. I feel like it is coming into its own mini little golden age. Yes, off the back of the Blue Alien smut book, but you know what? We'll take it. Oh, speaking of Blue Alien smut book, there is a sex scene in this one. On page, heated anatomical descriptions sex scene, which I don't think will bother most people. I feel like if you're reading an alien romance book, you're probably game for that. And this isn't full monster erotica. Yes, there's fur, but like nothing is too different. Again, if you read and were cool with the Blue Alien smut book, this one is actually tamer than that, so you should be fine. I just thought I'd bring that up just in case. We are at an above low but not super high heat level. Like there's the one scene and it's not terribly long or terribly in depth. But regardless, be aware of that. Now, I am still closed technically, mostly because holidays are coming up, and of course in December, one of my favorite times of year for my channel. I'm so happy. And I will hopefully be continuing reading review books throughout December. The problem is, one of the review books I just got is over 600 pages. Oh, Shammy Stovall, no, I love you. But keep an eye out on my Twitter, my channel, what have you. Fingers crossed. I really, really, really want to announce that I am fully open again before the beginning of 2022. That is the goal. Fingers crossed. Let's hope we can do that. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.